Oh boy.
Ooh,
Oh boy.
okay.
Okay,
Okay.
Houston.
Okay.
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 The Houston Rockets defeat the Cleveland Cavaliers 135 to 131. They sweep the season series, Quab. Sweep it.
Hey, two very exciting fourth quarters.
Impressive. Impressive. And listen, the Cavs had Mobley today.
They
They
did.
had
They
Mobley.
did. They did.
We'll get to that though.
And to all the Rockets fans, that wanted to remind us that they didn't have Jabari Smith. Like,
Right.
yeah,
We know.
we know.
We know.
We acknowledge it. We acknowledge. We got you. We get it. We know.
All right, let's get to the box score before we get into the game. For the Rockets, Jalen Green, 26 points, 4 assists. I thought he played a great game. We'll get into that. Alfred Sengun, 26 points, 8 rebounds. Amen Thompson, triple-double, 23 points, 14 rebounds, 10 assists. For the Cavs, Garland and Mitchell each had 30-plus. Niang had 6 3-pointers for 21 points. It was not enough because the Cavs went down early, and it was too much to overcome in the second half. Man, listen, we talk a lot about Houston's defense, and that goes without saying. They're one of the better defensive teams in the league. And I can talk about defensively today, but to me, this game was a lot about Houston's offense, and what I'm seeing from them is completely different than what we've been seeing for most of the year. And I think a lot of it has to do with Amen Thompson being inserted in the starting lineup and him being involved on offense and them not trying to hide him on offense. Fred VanVleet knowing when to shoot the basketball instead of forcing it. Them moving the basketball, they're playing more as a team than they've used to be. Their offense lately has been looking really, really good, which is not something we've said about Houston all season.
Yeah.
And we said this before too. Every time we react to a Houston Rockets game, they have a great day from three. 13 from 28 from 3-point range today. They don't take many, and usually they don't hit a lot either. But it seems like, Kwab, every time we do a Houston Rockets game, they're like over 40% from three. And again, a lot of that is VanVleet taking timely threes, Jalen Green as well. Just, listen, like, this team is impressive. This team is, I don't think they're championship contenders, but these 2 wins against the Cavs, especially going into Cleveland. I know Cleveland's on a back-to-back too, and I've always had this rule, like, I don't want to judge teams too harshly on a back-to-back. But it's still going into Cleveland. And they came out swinging. Donovan Mitchell came out of this game, and he, like, immediately scored 8 points. Yeah, very aggressive. It felt like a playoff atmosphere. Like, this was not like a regular Saturday night game in January to both of these teams. Like, the Cavs, even though they're coming off a back-to-back, they wanted to win this game. You can tell they wanted to win this game. They wanted their get-back. And for Houston to be so dominant at times is really impressive, especially on the road, man. Just a lot of credit to Houston, and I wanted to highlight their offense because we talk so much about their defense, and we've always said things about, I don't know how their half-court offense is going to look in the playoffs. That's where their ceiling is capped. Well, to me, again, like, there are other offenses I would take, but they are moving the basketball better. They're getting easy shots, cutting to the hoop, backdoor cuts. Sengun is a great passer, moving the ball around the perimeter. I'm really impressed with how their offense looked today, and I don't know how many times I've said that in my head this year.
Yeah, I again agree with you, dear. Especially that first half, they were ridiculous, and they haven't, like you said. Every time we usually talk about the Rockets and we recap them, they shoot the hell out the ball, and again, this was the case today from 3-point line. With the Rockets, we always say, like you said before, we talk about how good of a defensive team they were. For the game, I wanted to see how it looked, how they were going to guard the Cavs team that had Mobley back, if how they were going to, in terms of like scramble or box out, because with Jabari out, they're kind of a smaller team in comparison, but it didn't matter. Like, they just shut down their water from all the bigs looked like they were struggling inside. A couple of times early on, I think it was I want to say the first quarter or so, they were just switching and scrambling, and Fred VanVleet was like on Mobley, and he didn't want any help, and he was able to hold up. And to me, that's impressive to have that kind of faith in your players that you like. If you wanna have them, hey, what's going on, my brother?
This is Kizzo. When we mention Kizzo, this is Kizzo. We mentioned him a couple times, but go ahead.
Yeah, but that's That's it. See, I lost my train of thought because of Kizzo.
No, you did. Look what you did.
Look
But
what you
listen,
did.
I'll say this. I'll say this. What impressed me a lot about Houston defensively is that when they did switch onto Mobley and Allen, they were able to, like, not just like force bad shots from Mobley, force turnovers.
Turnovers, yes,
Like,
and
yes,
also
like,
hold up and get rebounds and
yeah, and
complete
it
the
reminded
defensive
me.
assignment. Yeah,
Yeah, and Cavs fans are going to hate me for this because I'm a Knicks fan, but it reminded me a lot of when the Knicks beat the Cavs in the playoffs a couple years ago when Mobley and Allen were just kind of, I don't want to say useless, but just didn't have the impact that they've been having this year.
yeah,
And I don't want to say they were getting bullied. It's not that, but like there were a couple times like Allen got the ball and like tried to go ISO, and it's like, no, you know, what I mean, maybe it's worth a few times this year, but it's like, no, not today.
yeah.
And Mobley too, back to the basket, it just wasn't working. There was no high-low action whatsoever today from the Cavs as well, and that's something that has been their bread and butter for a lot of the year. And Mobley too, handling the basketball. So a lot of that was shut down.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, credit to the Rockets defense.
Yeah, to the Rockets defense. I was gonna say on the Cavs side, it felt like, especially the first half, the only person that like was mad about the loss was Darius Garland, and because he missed those free throws, because
Yeah.
and when he was attacking off the high pick and rolls was probably the most efficient like shots and like plays they were getting throughout the course of the first half while they were down. The only other time before the fourth quarter they made like a slight run was, I think, the early on in the third quarter. Funny enough, when they brought in Tristan Thompson and he was being
But they started moving the ball.
yeah, and he was being overly physical with Sengun too on the other side.
But
For some reason
and they were moving the ball on
ball
offense, and it
around.
was-
Yeah,
yeah.
and it made a difference. I was like, okay, this might end up being a close game. But then the Rockets offense extended the lead again before the Cavs made that run in the fourth. As Cavs fans like to say, the Cavalanche happened. But in terms of the Rockets, like if they play this consistently on offense, we don't like to say they're a playoff championship contender, but like to
Western Conference Finals at least, like contenders.
Easily.
And if you get there, who knows, right?
Easily.
Like you make the Final Four, who the hell knows?
easily, because my phrase I always say, the defense always travels, and they've always been consistently played well defensively. They're like this game, they were very, very, very physical with the Cavs bigs, and it was working. Like very physical, like you said, forcing them into bad shots and like tough plays, and like I said, no high. Like they took away everything. Surprisingly, I didn't see the Cavs play a lot of zone defense,
No, they didn't. Yeah,
which was
they played a little bit. In the second
yeah.
half. Yeah.
Which I was just like, okay, you have Mobley back, and usually he's like a staple of that zone defense because of his length. But they kind of went away from that. So I know it's a back-to-back. They just came off a loss from the Sixers, very questionable loss, and now this loss. I have two questions. One regarding the Cavs. Do you have any concerns about the Cavs, especially like
Still
with this
no.
little stretch they've been having, like struggling here and there?
I mean, listen. At the end of the day, like they were on pace to win like 70-something games.
Yeah.
Like this team is they're not the Warriors.
Yeah.
You know, they're not the Bulls. They're a really good basketball team, and they're a team that can contend to win a championship. And I just think the way Houston plays them, they were physical with them. Again, Mobley just coming off an injury. He played 28 minutes today, had 7 points. I don't think that happens again.
Yeah.
And I think maybe he handles the ball more in the offense if they play again. I'm not worried about the Cavs to say, but it is kind of like, all right, like they're not. Like this offense is not impossible to stop because there were times this year where I was like, man, these guys, like even against the Thunder, it was like the Thunder the best defensive team in the league in my opinion, and the Cavs looked good against the Thunder in the game that they won at least.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just think teams go through highs and lows. There's peaks and valleys, and I just think right now for the first time all year, it's happening at the end of January.
Yeah.
You know, the Cavs are just going through a little bit of a valley right now. So I don't know. I'm not too worried about them. To me though, this is more about the Rockets and how well they played. I mean, when I think about the Cavs and how they played today, a lot of it was just like they weren't getting any actions when they were struggling. They weren't like they were doing a pick and roll and it was like a floater in the lane, or they were trying to force something in the paint. And the Rockets, you cannot stay in the paint. You can't force things in the paint with the Rockets because they have active hands. And even though they were kind of undersized, they're still good at protecting the paint and guarding things like the floaters and everything like that. And there was like no second action off these pick and rolls, and a lot of times they were going ISO. When the Cavs were at their best today was, you said, when Tristan Thompson came in, like as a joke, but like he came in and like they were whipping the ball around, dribble handoff. I mean, there was a play where they went around the whole perimeter and then it finished with a Donovan Mitchell dunk. Like you saw that.
Yeah.
And then in the fourth quarter, they got out and ran in transition. And I just think they need to do that. I was kind of disappointed with what I saw from them in the half court. I just thought they were kind of forcing it a little bit. But that happens. And again, like I said to start this, and this is not taking away from the Rockets with you today. So any Rocket fan, like, don't take this as like a slight to you. But a general rule of thumb for me is like on a back-to-back, I give a little more leeway to teams. Just a little more.
Now,
just because it's hard to play back-to-back in this league, especially, Donovan played 36 minutes, Garland 36. Max played 34. It's just tough. It's just tough to win back-to-backs in this league, especially a team like the Rockets, who are one of the better teams in the league. So, I'm not worried about Cleveland, man. I'm really not.
I was also going to say to the Cavs fans, you guys are also missing Karis LeVert and also Isaac Okoro,
Too, yeah.
which I think has been a big factor in a lot of some of your losses, just because
defensively,
because you
Okoro,
having that perimeter defensive player. They don't have that guy right now who they can just throw on the best player on all the team to like slow him down, and I think that factors into it. On the Rockets side, and this I'm going to ask you this, but also this is going to be a question for the Rockets fans if you're in the comments. When Jabari Smith comes back, does Amen go back to the bench, or do you keep him in the starting lineup? Because I'm keeping him in the starting lineup just because of how impressive the team has looked.
He's the most important person on the team.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like his impact defensively and offensively, it's ridiculous. So I don't know, Rockets fans, do you feel like he stays in the lineup and you bring Barry off the bench, or do you go back to him being part of that bench mob that was like ridiculous at the start of the season?
Nope.
Yeah.
No, you don't. You don't.
Yeah.
I mean, Dama Udoka, you found something that has took your team from here to here.
Yeah.
You stay with it. Jabari, that's Jabari's problem. Jabari, you got to figure out how you fit in, because this team has been balling.
Yeah.
And I think Jabari can help this team. I think he adds size. I think when he's making jump shots, his shot, which has been inconsistent, I think he adds another element to this team. But to me, that element is not as important as what Amen Thompson's been able to do. I'm sorry. I mean, he's unlocked Jalen Green too.
Yeah.
It's not just him. I mean, he makes them play faster. He's their best defender. There's that man should not come off the bench.
He also might be their best rebounder too. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like,
he should not come off the bench for another game for the next 12, 15 years. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
He's here. He's here. He's here.
Yeah, I was gonna say there was a bunch of plays during that Cavs run in the fourth where like the Rockets would have a missed shot, and it would be Amen Thompson getting a follow up layup and just making an impact there. Like he's been ridiculous.
It's crazy. He dominates a game without shooting jump shots.
Yeah.
In an era where that's what's mostly going on is.
Yeah, and there's been a couple of games that we've watched and recapped where like he's hit like a three here and that like he would hit a corner three, and that's when I'm just like, when that happens, I'm just like, oh shit, like that's scary.
He gets that going, forget it.
That's ridiculous. That's scary.
Yeah, forget it.
Yeah, but great win for the Rockets, especially like you.
Yeah,
like
especially the Cavs coming back, man. I was like, oh, this game. Especially when the Cavs tied it, I was like, "Oh,
yeah,
this is not good. This is not good.
This is not good." But hey, they pulled it off. So I mean, props to them. And like, I know people say like I've been harping on the whole thing with the Rockets having like silly turnovers when late in games. Wasn't the case here. Like it felt like they played a cleaner game throughout the whole course of the game.
Yeah.
And
at the end when Cleveland picked up their defense, they got a little sloppy there. And you kind of wondered, like, where was that?
Yeah.
Like, because Cleveland's capable of that type of defense.
Yeah.
But they were able to cap it and finish it out. So, shout out to the Rockets. They won 135-131. Kwab and I will be recording our power rankings tomorrow. Probably will drop Monday though because football. Like, y'all, I assume y'all are not going to watch power rankings when the Super Bowl is up for grabs. So we'll see. But until then, thanks for watching. And let us know what games you want us to recap. We'll see you next time for another episode of Dime. Peace.